Hi guys, Sci-Fi Recapped here. Before we start, warning. Spoilers ahead. Today, I'm gonna explain a 2020 American contemporary fantasy movie called The Midas Touch, which follows a man who is suddenly given an extraordinary ability to seduce women with a single touch. He soon finds this ability to be a curse instead of a blessing. The movie begins with a shy man, Felix, preparing for his day at a public relations agency. His boss, Ron, notices he has been ogling a lady, then mocks him for not knowing anything about interacting with women. The lady is Sarah Walker, Ron's new client. Another woman, Jane, initiates a conversation with Felix with the hope he could flirt with her, but he ultimately fails, leaving Jane disappointed. After that, Sarah walks up immediately to Felix, asking for his help to bring some of her stuff home. Felix agrees awkwardly, so they walk together with Felix carrying boxes of Sarah's stuff. While they are passing a public park, they encounter two magicians, Svyatoslav and his assistant, who are marketing their seminars to female visitors of the park. Through the seminar, they offer knowledge on sexuality and how to enhance their minds. Meanwhile, Sarah and Felix arrive at her house, where they are greeted by three young women, Nevi, Elena, and Sarita. Sarah instructs the women to perform songs in front of Felix. He realizes they are a cult, but he goes along with the choir, trying to sing a verse. Sarah then offers him a drink, then leaves to meet her husband, leaving Felix disappointed. Sarah's husband, James Walker, is a candidate for governor of the city. They hire Felix's agency to shoot a campaign video, which Felix helped give ideas for. However, during the shoot, James keeps repeating wrong words, blaming Felix for making faces that distract him. Ron scolds Felix and suggests James make an impromptu speech instead. At home, Sarah talks with James that she thinks Ron is flirting with her, to which James replies that it is obvious since Sarah is such a beautiful woman. However, when Sarah wants to talk more about it, James dismisses her by saying he is too tired from the election campaign and wants to rest. Svyatoslav and his assistant are conducting their seminar. They call for a volunteer and choose Sarita. However, she does not follow the brief of portraying beautiful women as stupid, frustrating Svyatoslav. Meanwhile, in the seminar session with the male audience, Svyatoslav picks Felix as a volunteer. He instructs Felix to flirt with Amalia, his assistant, to which Felix ultimately fails because he is very awkward and not experienced. Feeling humiliated, Felix goes to a bar for a drink afterward, where he sees a man walking in with a few women following him from behind. The man insists on having a break from these women and dismisses them, while he sits next to Felix. Felix watches the man, named Semyaza, with amazement. Semyaza tells him that he has a curse that makes him extremely attractive to women. Felix does not think it is a curse, but Semyaza admits that he also thought it was a blessing until he grew tired of it. He says he is tired of his situation and wants to pass on the curse to someone else. Felix wants to receive the ability. Semyaza says that they must perform a silly dance and Felix should say "give it to me," then the ability is passed. After performing the ritual, Semyaza attempts to touch a waitress, but she smacks him in the face instead of being attracted to him, indicating Semyaza's ability has been passed on. Felix is confused, as Semyaza does not explicitly teach him how to use this ability, only saying "remember the touch." As Felix walks through the park, he passes several women, some bumping into him until making physical contact. He immediately arouses them. Even the vendor cart woman is highly stimulated when she touches him for taking his money. Felix realizes the magic Semyaza gave him has worked, then tests it on several different women who all end up chasing after him. He then sits next to a woman and tries to touch her but with his hand covered by a glove, to which she does not respond. However, when he takes off the glove, she is aroused just like other women. After being chased by and sleeping with many women of his desire, Felix grows tired of his routine. Women keep chasing after him, yet he is too tired to interact with them. He even has bruises from when he tried to outrun the women. During nightfall, three tireless women encounter him, begging him to interact with them again. Felix demands to have time for himself to rest before he meets them again tomorrow. The next day, at the office, Ron suspects Felix has been hanging out with women and praises him for his improvement in getting more experienced with females. Ron then sees Felix's three infatuated followers trying to get to him, which amazes him even more. Felix arranges a meeting with Professor Jones, an expert in cult rituals, for an explanation of his ability that disturbs his day-to-day life. The professor explains that the ritual began in ancient times, specifically in ancient Sumeria, when a young man, Uruk, was fascinated by the beauty of Ashahara who did not seem to be bothered by him. Determined to win her heart, he came to his spiritual advisor for counsel, Saki. Saki taught Uruk the ritual of making women attracted to him. Uruk succeeded, bearing 14 children from his relationship with Ashihara, then died of a heart attack. However, he passed on the ritual to someone else, which kept the ritual alive for thousands of years. Leaving Professor Jones's house, Felix is unaware that Ron follows him and overheard his conversation with Professor Jones. Svyatoslav and his assistant see Felix being chased by his frantic followers in the park and immediately recognize him as the man who failed to flirt with girls in one of their seminars. Meanwhile, at Felix's office, Jane comes to him to mock him again, but this time Felix touches her, arousing her. She tells him to come to Ron's office because the latter wants to see him. At Ron's office, Ron convinces Felix that with his talent, they can work together to excel at their careers. He asks Felix to hide underneath his sofa but with his hand popping out of the hole, then meets Sarah, who already has an appointment with him. He positions himself on the sofa so that Sarah unknowingly touches Felix's hand, arousing her, but making her think that she is aroused because of Ron, and proceeds to have intercourse with him. Felix goes viral, with news outlets broadcasting his abilities and interviewing his infatuated women. Jane, who is in James' office, recognizes Felix when he appears on television, saying that something feels special when he touches her. James deduces that Felix has a special ability with his touch. Sarah and her choir are also watching the news and discussing what kind of ability Felix possesses. Ron and Svyatoslav are also watching it and wishing they could possess Felix's ability. Felix goes to a bar and tries to talk with desperate men who may want his ability, but no one believes him. Unbeknownst to him, Svyatoslav and his assistant disguise themselves to overhear Felix's conversation. Meanwhile, James meets Ron and asks if he can have Felix's ability to gain more votes from the women and ensure his victory in the upcoming election as well as repair his relationship with Sarah. Ron admits that he knows how to get the ritual, which is by performing a silly dance. They try to perform it, then James attempts to touch a woman, but he is smacked on the face. Ron meets with Felix, convincing him to pass the ability to James so James can get what he wants, and they can excel in their careers. Felix is confused by the situation and meets with Professor Jones again to seek counsel. He knows that the ability must only be passed down to someone with a pure heart, otherwise someone can use it for evil intentions. However, Professor Jones tells him that passing the ability with someone of a pure heart will only bring misery to the bearer, just like Semyaza and Felix have experienced. He suggests Felix pass it to someone with an evil heart because instead of arousing women, it will cause the women to throw hate and anger toward the bearer. Felix is kidnapped by Svyatoslav and his assistant on his way home. Felix wakes up in a cult meeting, which turns out to be joined by Sarah and Svyatoslav. Sarah is curious about Felix's ability and demands he touches her so she can know what it feels like. She is overwhelmed by the sensation and faints. Svyatoslav demands Felix to pass the ability to him, but just as Felix wants to perform the ritual, Ron walks in, telling them Felix cannot pass the ability to anyone else because he made a deal with James. Svyatoslav stabs Ron, determined to get the ability no matter the cost. James also walks in and fights to gain the ability, but Svyatoslav defeats him too. The ritual is eventually performed, then Felix successfully passes his ability to Svyatoslav and is freed from his misery from being endlessly chased by women. Sometime later, Svyatoslav holds a seminar again. He touches the women with the hope that they will be attracted to him. However, they all turn angry instead, then chase after him to beat him to death. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.